Words do not always stay just words. Sometimes a word begins as something concrete and specific, a normal word with weight, image, and meaning, and then gradually people use the word so much that the meaning can begin to fade. It sort of becomes lighter, more abstract, more automatic, until one day it no longer feels like a word at all. It feels like grammar. This process is called grammaticalization, and one of the things that often happens along the way is commonly referred to as semantic bleaching. The idea is quite simple. A word loses some of its original meaning and becomes a grammatical tool. Take English for example. I am going to eat. Originally, going to is about movement. You go to the kitchen, you go to Paris, you go to the cursed medieval castle. There is actual movement. But in I am going to eat, you may not be going anywhere at all. You might be sitting completely still, staring into the fridge. Here, going to doesn't really mean movement anymore. It means that something is about to happen. It means future. The original meaning, movement, has been bleached. The word going has lost some of its goingness. And that is semantic bleaching. Another very common example is intensifiers. Words like very, really, literally, terribly, and awfully. These words often start with stronger, more specific meanings. Really means in reality. If something really happened, it actually happened. But in a sentence like that was really good, really does not necessarily mean in reality. You're not saying this goodness exists physically in the universe. You're just making good stronger. The word has shifted from describing reality to describing intensity. The same goes for words like terribly and awfully. Originally, they are connected to terror and awe, fear and dread. But when someone says, I'm terribly sorry, they probably do not mean I have filled my apology with terror. And when someone says, that was awfully nice, they do not mean this kindness instilled a sense of sacred fear. They just mean very sorry or very nice. The original meaning has faded. What remains is intensity. And what is more interesting is that these intensifiers are constantly renewed. They do not necessarily disappear, but they do change. In English, older forms like very can remain perfectly understandable, while newer or more fashionable forms become more common in everyday speech. One speaker might say very good, another might say really good, and somebody else might say so good, pretty weird, or literally perfect. The point is not that one word dies and another word replaces it overnight, but different people may prefer different intensifiers, and over time words that once felt strong can become ordinary. Because intensifiers express intensity and emotion, they can lose their impact over time, driving a continuous cycle where older words may be discarded and replaced by fresher, more expressive ones. This points to another key theory in grammaticalization, the hypothesis of unidirectionality. That is the idea that this kind of change usually only moves in one direction, from concrete to abstract, from lexical to grammatical, from full meaning to function. Linguists do argue about how absolute this direction really is, but as a general tendency, grammaticalization is often described as a one-way street. Words become grammar much more easily than grammar becomes ordinary words again. And once you see this, grammar can begin to look quite different. Tiny boring words, auxiliaries, particles, endings, prepositions, intensifiers are not just grammatical dust. They are fossils. They are the remains of older meanings. So when someone says, I'm really tired, the word really is doing much more than filling space. It carries a trace of an older meaning, but in everyday speech that meaning has been bent into a new job, turning up the volume. That is how language changes, not through grand design, but through repetition. A useful phrase gets used again, then again, then again, until it stops feeling like a phrase and starts behaving like a tool. And really, that is the strange beauty of it. Language is always recycling itself. Words do not simply disappear. They get repurposed.